Every morning you wake up with the same problem. Your body is awake, but your brain feels like it is trapped in a heavy fog. You sit at your desk staring at the screen, forcing yourself to push through emails or tasks, but nothing fires. The first hours of the day, which should be the sharpest, are wasted in a state of mental sludge. And here is the brutal truth. If you lose your mornings, you lose your edge. High performers separate themselves from the pack by what they do in the first 2 hours of the day. And if you let brain fog steal that time, you are operating at half your potential. This is not about motivation or discipline, it is about biology. Your brain is a machine, and like any machine, if you start it incorrectly, you waste energy and create inefficiency. Today, I will give you a precise system to eliminate morning brain fog and switch your brain into high-performance mode within minutes of waking. Think of this as installing a new operating code for your mornings. There are 3 layers to this protocol: light, chemistry, and focus. You need all 3 for the reset to work. Skip one and you leave performance on the table. Let's start with the first layer, light. Most people underestimate how much light dictates mental clarity. The neurons in your brain responsible for alertness rely on signals from your eyes. If you wake up and immediately scroll your phone under dim indoor light, you are telling your brain it is still night. That is why you feel sluggish for hours. The code here is simple. Within the first 10 minutes of waking, you must expose your eyes to strong natural light. Step outside even if it is cloudy for at least 5 minutes. If you cannot, use a bright daylight lamp with at least 10,000 lux. This is not optional. It is the biological trigger that releases a surge of cortisol and sets your circadian clock, telling your brain it is time to perform. The payoff is that within 20 minutes, your energy rises naturally, without caffeine. That is step 1. The second layer is chemistry. Most people slam coffee immediately after waking. That is a mistake. Your body already produces a natural spike of cortisol 30 to 60 minutes after you wake, designed to clear adenosine, the molecule that makes you feel tired. If you drink coffee before this process finishes, you blunt the effect and crash harder later. The code here is to delay caffeine for at least 90 minutes after waking. During that window, hydrate with water and a pinch of electrolytes. This clears leftover adenosine and stabilizes your nervous system. Then, when you take caffeine, it hits like a performance amplifier rather than a crutch. This single shift transforms your energy curve for the entire day. Now, let's go deeper into chemistry with a powerful but overlooked weapon: breathing. When you wake up in brain fog, it usually means your nervous system is still leaning toward a parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode. You need to flip it into a balanced alert state. The fastest way is through controlled breathing. Here is the protocol. Sit upright. Inhale deeply through your nose for 3 seconds. Hold for 2, then exhale sharply through your mouth for 6. Repeat this 5 times. This ratio pushes out carbon dioxide, increases oxygenation, and signals the brainstem to increase alertness. In less than 2 minutes, your physiology shifts. You can literally feel your system switch on. That is chemistry at work. Now we move to the third layer, focus. Even if your biology is primed, if your mental focus is scattered in the first hour, the fog returns. The human brain does not like to shift rapidly between tasks when it is still booting up. The code here is the single task ignition. Choose one high-value action that takes no more than 10 minutes and do only that. It could be outlining the day's top 3 priorities or writing the first paragraph of a project. Do not check social media. Do not open random tabs. The reason this works is that your brain releases dopamine when you complete a meaningful action. That dopamine acts as a spotlight, cutting through the fog and accelerating momentum. Within 10 minutes, you create a feedback loop. Clarity leads to progress. Progress drives clarity. At this point, you might be thinking, this sounds like common sense. But here is where most people fail. They do not execute the sequence in order. Light first, chemistry second, focus third. If you scramble the order, you break the chain. Light before screens, hydration before caffeine, and single task ignition before distraction. Think of it as entering a launch code. If you get the sequence right, the rocket fires. If you do not, it sputters. The power here is that you are not relying on willpower. You are aligning with the natural wiring of your nervous system, and when you do, the effect is dramatic. Imagine waking up tomorrow, stepping outside for 5 minutes, drinking water instead of coffee, doing a 2-minute breathing reset, then sitting down and completing one clear, high-value action. By the time most people are still in a haze, you are already running at full speed. This is how top performers steal hours of productivity before the world even starts. Let's zoom in deeper on why this system works. Your brain has what neuroscientists call ultradian cycles. These are natural 90-minute waves of focus and energy. The way you start the first cycle after waking determines the quality of the next 3 or 4 cycles that follow. If you waste the first cycle in brain fog, you set a low baseline and everything drags. But if you ignite the first cycle with this protocol, you elevate the entire day. That is why this is not just about mornings. It is about multiplying the value of every hour that comes after. So let's reinforce the exact steps again. Step 1. Get outside or get intense light within 10 minutes of waking. Step 2. Hydrate and delay caffeine for 90 minutes, then use controlled breathing to snap your nervous system into alert mode. Step 3. Execute one high-value single-task ignition to release dopamine and momentum. These 3 layers combine into a system I call the energy code. Follow it and your mornings shift from fog to fire. Ignore it and you hand over your edge to those who do. Now let's go even more tactical. What if you wake up exhausted from poor sleep? Does the code still work? The answer is yes, but with a slight adjustment. On those days, extend your light exposure to at least 15 minutes and double your breathing cycles. This compensates for the deficit by giving your brain more oxygen and resetting your circadian rhythm faster. Another question. What if you live in a dark climate with limited sun? Then invest in a daylight lamp and position it 30 centimeters from your eyes for 10 minutes. Science shows it provides nearly the same signal to your brain as the sun. No excuses. High performance is about systems, not circumstances. The final tactical point is about stacking. Once you master the basic energy code, you can stack it with other performance triggers. For example, combine your morning light exposure with a short walk. This doubles as low-level cardio, which increases blood flow to the brain. Or pair your single-task ignition with music that has a consistent rhythm, which entrains your brain waves into focus. The stacking principle allows you to multiply results without extra time. By now, you can see the pattern. Brain fog is not random. It is not about being lazy. It is a performance leak that comes from ignoring basic neurobiology. And leaks cost you hours, which cost you opportunities, which cost you the life you want. When you install the energy code, you seal that leak permanently. The difference is not subtle. It is the gap between dragging yourself through mornings and dominating them. There is one more layer to the energy code that most people never think about, and it is the role of micro rewards. Your brain is wired to conserve energy. If it senses no reward for effort, it drags its feet, literally creating more fog to slow you down. The way to override this is by engineering small, immediate rewards at the start of your day. For example, after completing your single-task ignition, anchor it to a reward you genuinely enjoy, such as your first cup of coffee or a piece of music you only allow yourself to play once the task is done. This links dopamine release to productive action rather than passive scrolling or distractions. The science is clear. When dopamine is tied to meaningful behavior, motivation becomes self-sustaining instead of fleeting. This is not about tricking yourself. It is about reprogramming the operating system of your brain so that clarity and productivity are the default state. Another crucial point to understand is that morning brain fog is not only about what you do after waking, but also about what you did the night before. If you flood your brain with blue light late at night or eat heavy meals before sleep, you interfere with melatonin release and disrupt the natural sleep cycles that clean up metabolic waste in the brain. The result is what scientists call sleep inertia, which is essentially leftover chemical noise that clouds your thinking. The tactical fix here is simple. In the last hour before sleep, minimize artificial light and avoid heavy food. If you do that, the energy code works twice as effectively the next morning. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They try to fix mornings without preparing the ground the night before. You cannot build a skyscraper on a broken foundation. Elite performers know this, and they treat their evening routine as the pre-launch sequence for the next day's clarity. Now, let's zoom out and understand why the energy code is so powerful compared to generic advice like drink water or get sunlight. Most common advice is scattered and isolated. The energy code is a system. It creates a chain reaction that moves you from biological activation to chemical alignment to focused execution. That sequence turns a messy, sluggish morning into a controlled launch. Think of it like programming a rocket. You do not just press random buttons. You execute a precise launch sequence. Miss one step and the rocket fails. Execute in order and you break through the atmosphere. That is the difference between starting your day on fire and starting it in fog. Let me make this even more practical with a real-world scenario. Imagine two people wake up at 7 a.m. The first person grabs their phone, scrolls social media in bed, sips coffee immediately, and then tries to start work. By 9 a.m., they are still yawning, distracted, and battling to clear the haze. The second person follows the energy code. At 7 a.m., they step outside for light, hydrate with water and electrolytes, perform 2 minutes of controlled breathing, then execute a single high-value action. By 7:30 a.m., their brain is sharp, their body is primed, and they are already making progress while the first person is still stuck in the fog. Over one day, the difference seems small. Over 1 year, the difference compounds into hundreds of hours of peak performance. That is why I call this a code. It is not a tip. It is not a hack. It is an operating system. Once you install it, you never go back, because the return on investment is obvious and undeniable. Now, let's address resistance. People will tell themselves they are not morning people, or that their schedule is too busy, or that they can just push through the fog. These are excuses that protect mediocrity. High performers do not negotiate with excuses. They identify performance leaks and eliminate them. Brain fog is one of the biggest leaks because it steals the most valuable real estate of the day. The first hours when your brain is biologically designed to perform at its best. If you allow that to be wasted, you are competing against others who have already built momentum before you even start. In a world where advantage compounds, that gap becomes impossible to close. That is why this system is not optional. It is mandatory if you want to operate at the top tier. So here is your challenge. Tomorrow morning, run the full sequence. Light first, hydration and breathing second, single task ignition third, and anchor it with a micro reward. Do it for 1 week without exception. Track how many hours of clear, productive time you gain. You will see the results immediately. The fog will lift, and in its place you will have a sharp, controlled mind that executes with precision. And once you taste that level of clarity, you will never accept anything less. This is how you weaponize your mornings. This is how you steal time, focus, and energy while everyone else is still waking up. This is the energy code. Install it and you win the day before it even begins. If you are serious about building an arsenal of mental codes that give you an edge in performance, business, and life, subscribe to Success Code now. Every week we decode the hidden systems that top performers use to dominate, and we hand them to you as precise, actionable protocols. Your brain is the most powerful tool you have, but only if you know how to program it. Do not let brain fog or outdated habits steal your edge. Join this channel, install the codes, and build your playbook for success.